Well, hello, everybody. Today we have Tara Johnson-Noem, who's the Associate Director of Workforce at the Northern Kentucky Area Development District and also Director of the Workforce Investment Board. So, Tara, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today on this it's a critical topic of workforce. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, prior to this pandemic, we had our unemployment was in Northern Kentucky and in Kenton County in particular down into the 3% or so, and almost we talked about full employment, and the mindset was one direction. And now we've been in this pandemic for a number of months. And maybe you could just first, before we start talking about it, what are the numbers today? What do we see in Kenton County and the state of Kentucky for unemployment overall?
Yeah, absolutely, Judge. You know, when I would have had this conversation with you in February, we would have been talking about the challenges of finding sufficient number of employees for our employers here in Northern Kentucky, especially in Kenton County. It's been a real 180 in terms of that, and obviously we're really concerned about what that looks like, both for our businesses and for, of course, our dislocated workers. Right now in Kentucky for the month of April, these statistics are always just a little bit lagging, unfortunately, because it takes time to analyze them from the state level and the national level. But in April, the numbers just came out. Kentucky has a total unemployment percentage of 15.4%. It's obviously extremely high from what we had. And then in Kenton County, we are a little below that rate at 13.8%. Now, we know that that's probably not capturing everybody who might have had their hours reduced, might have been self-employed or a contractor, and for whatever reason ends up not counted in those numbers. So it's probably actually more people who were impacted, but 13.8% is the number we have right now for April.
So the numbers show that it's bad. And in other parts, I've seen some other county numbers that are, and everybody's watching numbers, 30%, 40% unemployment. And, it's worth necessarily arguing the point that it's really been bad.
Yeah.
But the other point, I guess, that has been interesting is a number of calls in your efforts, because you partner with everybody from the state, of course, in terms of their employment offices and even the chamber. But what are the call volumes coming from?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. Just for those who may not know, the Workforce Investment Board that we staff, we are responsible for staffing the Kentucky Career Center network. So in Northern Kentucky, we have 5 physical locations, but we're serving people virtually every day now, even though our physical locations aren't currently open. In our comprehensive center, which is in Covington, there are 13 partners that we're working with. Several of those are state agencies, but we also have other nonprofits. Tank is there, Goodwill, a number of entities. So we take calls that might, normally be going to any one of those organizations. Right now, as you might imagine, the vast majority are calling about unemployment insurance, even though we actually don't typically do anything in unemployment. We have stepped up and tried to help the state address those calls. We've been getting about 2,500 calls a week. Up until last week and the week before, it started lowering a bit, and about 1,000 emails. Last week, our call volume went down to about 1,500. Still too many people that are struggling with getting their unemployment claims filled, and we'll continue to loan out our team members as much as we need to try to help handle those calls. We have heard from, as many people have on the governor's updates from Deputy Secretary Josh Benton, that the vast majority of the unemployment figure, the claims that have not been handled yet from April or from even March, there's still thousands of claims out there, but many of them are quite complex. And so really that's going to be the state employees that are going to be taking those and having to work through them, which means that hopefully our team is going to have more bandwidth to be able to help people who are actually trying to find a new job maybe in this environment, or an employer who needs help maybe coming back online and recruiting new employees. And that's really the heart of what we normally do, and we'd like to get back to it.
In those lists and on the website, and we'll make sure we post that, if someone's looking for jobs or looking for a job, That is still there. That's being updated as quickly as possible, right? For those
Yes.
employers who are hiring, because there are companies out there that are hiring.
Yes.
And nobody wants to feel unproductive. Of course, I don't think people want to get back on their feet. And hopefully while the state's working through their unemployment claims, they can look for opportunities. So one of the things you pointed out to me in the past, and I think that it's the case today, if as the economy opens back up, if people are able to find work, sometimes if they don't have any other responsibilities, that's one thing. But if they've got children, talk to us about the issues of childcare, how that's affecting those looking for work.
Yeah, we've heard this from both employers and from, those dislocated workers who are hoping to get back to work, that childcare piece has just been a huge challenge. This is something I've been aware of for a while as both a parent and in my work, but something that's really gotten a lot of national as well as local attention recently, which is what a critical workforce support childcare is in our economy. We know that in-home childcare providers are allowed to reopen on June 8th, and center-based, so a larger childcare center, they are allowed to reopen on June 15th. We are really waiting, along with many other employers in our region, to see how that impacts the ability for people to return to work. Because right now, if someone's called back, there's a very good chance if they don't have childcare, they maybe don't have the luxury of maybe having a parent or a grandparent or somebody else who can help them with that, they may not be able to return even if they would want to have a safe and consistent, high quality place for their child to be. So we're definitely looking at that. We are concerned that and we understand the safety precautions that are in place, but we are hearing that a number of childcare centers may not be able to open because they can't quite make the finances work with the new ratios that are going to be in place. And so we are extremely concerned about that. Many in the community are working on it. Grow at the Northern Kentucky Chamber has been very involved. They have part of their pillars, the early childhood movement. United Way of Greater Cincinnati is working on it too. From the standpoint of the Workforce Investment Board and the Area Development District, we have training dollars available for individuals who really need help and training to get into a new career. And we are working to allow some of those training dollars to be able to use to actually help people get trained as a childcare provider at a higher level, so that they could maybe even open their own business or work at one of the centers that needs more staff. And then the Area Development District also has a revolving loan fund for small businesses, and they are working to allow those funds to be prioritized toward childcare providers who may need a loan or some other kind of financial assistance to maybe to fulfill some of the new requirements that are going to be in place with COVID-19 reopening. So we're hopeful that with all the various partners and the small piece that we're playing, that we might be able to handle this pretty serious crisis regarding childcare in our economy.
So the point is, I think childcare was always an issue before. Now it's become even more critical. And one of the bits of feedback, and you can validate this or what have you, but those who have existing businesses that they're wanting to open back up June 8th or afterwards, or June 15th in this case, that they can't operate at full capacity. Therefore, their financial model totally changes, and they can't potentially even stay in business. Whereas if they can be open, but can they actually make a dollar, and or just keep their costs covered? So maybe you can speak to that, what you're hearing from childcare providers.
Yeah, we've been hearing for many years that the margins are just so slim right now as it is. There's a very fine balance in making childcare affordable for the families that are trying to seek that care, and for it to be a profitable, even for nonprofit childcare providers, but still to just be able to pay their expenses and to keep their doors open. By lowering the number of children that are able to be served and keeping them in smaller groups, we are very worried that some of the maybe smaller centers are not going to be able to make those numbers work anymore. We're hearing potential estimates of up to 40% of childcare providers statewide, may not be able to reopen, at least not initially. And that is a staggering number. 40% of childcare providers not reopening, when we know how critical their presence is to be able, the rest of the economy to really get back up and running the way that we all want. So that's why the Area Development District, the WIB, and all the other partners are really focused on this right now, doing anything that we can to try to support that industry.
So really, and a huge takeaway from this for me is that the numbers are challenging in terms of unemployment. They're seeming to be leveling off a bit. But the biggest opportunity here is if somebody's wanting to look at employment for themselves, still connect with the resources that are existing through the state and the Workforce Investment Board, et cetera. But also if you're wanting to be trained and you're so inclined to possibly be a child care provider and do it even in your home, this may be training capability for them to start a new career.
This may be the time. And we have both talent development specialists, so people that are working with individuals at the Kentucky Career Center. And we also have business services specialists who are working directly with employers. During this crisis, we've worked with more than 100 employers on everything from filing their unemployment claims on the behalf of their employees to trying to figure out how to hire in this new environment. And so the Kentucky Career Center can really be a resource for anybody thinking about workforce issues. Definitely would encourage anybody to check out our website, which I know will be posted as part of this. And we are absolutely here to help as any way we can.
Well, Terry, you guys are doing a great job, everybody at the ad. So we thank you so much for the time today. And hopefully we continue next time we get back together. Hopefully the numbers start dropping and people get back to work and do it all safely with their families.
We absolutely hope that too, Judge. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.